it's basically a Kanban board for your emails, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically like Trello for your emails. You can, drag.
Welcome to How I Make, a series that gives you an insight into makers, the tools they use, and a behind-the-scenes look into their products. Hi Ethan, how are you doing?
Hi, yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah.
So you're in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
What time is it
Sydney?
there now? I'm in Spain, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and for you it's
7:10 p.m.
Okay, cool. Well,
So, yeah.
Thank you for being the first guest on this show. Just want to see how it goes. And I want to start things off by, showing what's on your desktop, if that's possible. What does your
Okay.
desktop look like?
Let me, cool. Can you see that?
I can indeed, yes.
Okay, awesome. So, I really don't have that much up right now. I've got Visual Studio Code. I've got Notion. I've got Fork, which is my Git client. But I don't have anything on my desktop.
So on the desktop itself, oh, super clean.
Yeah.
Nice.
The funny thing is, I actually have like 2,000 items on my desktop.
Okay.
But I have this. There's this terminal command that you can do where they don't actually show on your desktop. They only show in Finder.
Cool.
So I ran that and it's a lot nicer.
Yeah.
A lot cleaner.
I can definitely appreciate that. Okay, so take us through the tools that you use on a daily basis.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really. Okay. Well, yeah. For starters, for code, I use Visual Studio.
Mm-hmm.
I was using brackets, and I switched to Visual Studio, and I haven't really looked back since then.
Yeah.
I really like it. So yeah, I use that for just code terminals. Then I have Fork, which is just a really nice Git client. So it shows all these things.
This connects directly to GitHub?
Yeah. So I've got it set up as a remote branch right here, and I can just push it and it'll go up to GitHub. It's actually not GitHub, GitLab.
Okay, yeah.
So I created it on GitLab back when private repositories like weren't free on GitHub. And I was like, when they released like the free private repositories, I was going to switch, but I found that they actually didn't have protected branches for free.
Right.
So on GitLab, like I can't do a force push to master. Otherwise, yeah, it'll get annoyed at me and I'll have to like set up a unprotection thing. And yeah, so I like that. Yeah. In terms of like planning and stuff, I use Notion. So this is kind of my main Notion page that I'm on most of the time. KanbanMail. So I have Kanban board. And this is actually public. So I don't really have, like, basically my entire roadmap's public.
Oh, nice.
So like what I see when I'm planning for stuff is basically what anyone can see.
Cool.
And it's also good because I only have to update it in one place. So I've got like to do and then done. And it's also nice because I have a calendar view.
Yeah.
So I can see what I shipped when. And that's kind of a fun way to see what I've been up to. And yeah.
How do you find keeping to your tasks?
Most of the time I do pretty well. Not so much with like schoolwork and stuff. But like with making, because I'm passionate about it. Often it's kind of like, okay, so I'm working on KanbanMail. What should I be working on? And either I'll kind of come here and look at all these ideas and think about one of them that I could implement,
Yeah.
or I might kind of be playing around with KanbanMail one day and be like, you know what, it would be cool if it did this, and then
Yeah.
just code that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any other tools? Or is this the main stuff? Is this your main kind of work stack, so to
That's the
speak?
main stuff. I
Okay.
use Netlify.
Yeah.
So I use that for hosting, and they also have Cloud Functions.
Yeah.
So in there, I basically I don't have a backend.
Okay.
So any stuff that I kind of need to do not on the front end, I do here. So that stuff like creating users in Stripe, getting like access tokens, all those sorts of things, webhooks. Also, I have one for if my content security policy is violated. If you don't know what that is, for whoever's watching, it's like it's basically you specify what you want to run on your site. So you can say like only run scripts from this URL or whatever.
Okay.
So whenever it is violated, it gets blocked, and then also this URL gets pinged and it gets sent to my Telegram, so I can see if any stuff is violating it. And yeah.
Got it. So we've gone into the functionality of KanbanMail. So let's kind of use that as a segue to go into your baby, into your product. So introduce KanbanMail, what it is, how you came up with it, and how it's going.
Well, yeah, this is KanbanMail, and it's basically a Kanban board for your emails, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like Trello for your emails. You can, drag emails around. You can kind of look at emails, all the normal stuff of an email client. I've also been working on kind of keyboard shortcuts, so it's like easy to navigate around like that. You can like enter, kind of just, and there are shortcuts to move columns and like select columns and all sorts of things like that. I actually did this new editor for KanbanMail a few days ago, so you can tab through the fields.
Oh, that looks great.
Yeah, you can go to here, and then you can do markdown shortcuts. So you do like heading 1, and then you can do like code blocks and all that sort of stuff, and quotes, and yeah. So that that has lots of nifty features, and yeah. It's basically what it is. I also have a split view for if you're not in the Kanban mood.
Yeah.
It's like half done. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Excellent. And how's it been going with it? How's the uptake been? What are your users kind of saying about it?
So all the users that I kind of talk to often, usually when I make a change, they're kind of like, "Yay, thanks," which is nice. I mean, already compared to when I launched in October, like if I was going to use the October version now, like it honestly would feel like a toy. Like sometimes I can't even believe that like that was what launched, and I think kind of if that many people were using it back then, it's going to be good.
Isn't there the saying about being embarrassed by your first version or something like that?
Yeah, like I definitely don't regret launching it or anything.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, wow, look how far I've come.
That's great.
It shows like the power of incremental improvement.
Absolutely.
Just features consistently over time.
Yeah. It stacks up, doesn't it? And then you can just see kind of like a different, completely different product.
Yeah.
Cool. You kind of went into the bit of the functionality beforehand when we saw your Netlify screen. So could you give us an overview of how things work under the hood?
Okay. So first of all, Netlify has a functionality where you can actually get it to run a build script on your site. So for example, static site generators like Jekyll or whatever, that's kind of there just running a build script. So it runs a command like Jekyll build or whatever. but you can actually get it to run a command to run like whatever you want. So you can say like node build.js,
Right.
and basically just run a build script for you.
Okay.
So let me get it up here. Actually, I have a build script. Let me find it. Here we go, for KanbanMail. So here I kind of inject variables. So for example, here I have app version, and then whenever it sees version, it'll replace that with the app version. And a useful one I have is percent timestamp. So that'll basically inject the timestamp. And that's really good because I have a ton of different JavaScript files. And normally in the browser, like if you don't do Shift Command R, sometimes it can use old versions of the CSS and JavaScript. So in all of this, I have query strings here. So I say like v equals percent timestamp, and that makes sure it's fetching the latest version. Other stuff that I do in my build script, I do a lot of stuff in there. So yeah, I have all these find and replace things. But something I do is basically my stack is on the front end. I use Vue.js. Basically, KanbanMail was the first thing I ever built in Vue.js, so it was kind of really bad Vue code. And I have like a lot of global stuff. And basically, if I wanted to use the CLI version, command line interface version, it just wouldn't work. And if I wanted to use Webpack and all that stuff, and like I could invest a ton of time kind of making it work with that. But instead what I did is I wanted to use single file components, where you can say like .vue, because then it's nice in the code editor. It's just a nicer, because it recognizes it's a Vue file. So in my build script, I wrote a custom parser in regex, which turns these single file components into, let me get it up here for you. So in the browser version of Vue, it actually, you declare components like this, like with a function, you say vue.component. So this is actually, so my build script generates this file by scanning a directory of all my components, and it kind of gets all the relative bits, and it compiles it into this browser syntax. So it's kind of a hacky way of doing things, but it lets me just develop stuff a lot faster. So that's that. So yeah, I have all these different components. In terms of JavaScript, so I have a main.js, which is basically where I put stuff that's not everywhere else. But some of these, I basically have a lot of JavaScript files dedicated to like objects with things that they contain. So for example, here, this is API actions.js, and you can see I just have just an object like Gmail. So then I could say like API actions.gmail.add labels to email. And then it'll do that. So yeah, a few months ago, I was kind of restructuring, and this just makes it a lot more abstracted. I still have a long way to go with that. But it's getting better. So I can kind of write reusable code here. Components.js, that's the one that it auto generates. Again, I have something called database actions. So that just, that's kind of a wrapper that I wrote on top of indexed DB, because local storage, you only get 5 megabytes, and I need more than 5 megabytes.
Local storage, where are you talking about?
In the browser.
Oh, in the browser itself. Got it.
Yeah.
So local for the user, you mean?
Yeah, it's something called, you can say like local storage dot whatever equals whatever. So it's basically just a tiny key value store in the browser. And indexed DB is also an in the browser thing, but it's kind of just more advanced, and you get more storage space, and you can have multiple tables and all that sort of stuff.
Understood. You mentioned briefly that you have no backend, essentially. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you want to just delve into that a little bit? What made you do that? Was it kind of, what led you to that?
Like for starters, I've never really developed like proper backend stuff. So when I was first making KanbanMail, obviously I focused on the front end.
Yeah.
And basically, before I released it, I actually basically had it working just with no backend at all.
Yeah.
So you could go on the site, you could log in, but then there was all the stuff like, you know, sign-ups, communicating to Stripe, all those sorts of things, which you couldn't do on the front end because
Yeah.
then you'd be exposing your like private keys and giving people access and all that stuff. So then I found out about Cloud Functions, which is basically where you can just call a URL and it runs some JS, just not in the browser. So there I can kind of have environment variables for all like my API keys. And yeah, so it wasn't like I didn't really decide from the start that I was going to use Cloud Functions, but I kind of just developed the front end first, and then it didn't really require a full back end.
Okay, so out of necessity, you played to your strengths.
Yeah, I was like, I could develop a whole back end, but you know, like I know nothing about backend security.
Sure.
I don't really know anything about backend deployment. It was just kind of easier to use these Cloud Functions. It still took me like a week to get used to them, but yeah.
Okay, so it's described as a serverless model pretty much, right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, obviously that's still run on a server somewhere, but
yeah, of course.
Like there's no server that I manage.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything, let me think. Is there anything that you found particularly tricky recently within KanbanMail? Something that got you stumped, and if not, would you like to show anything that you're working on or what's coming next? So,
Okay.
Start with the first one. Anything that you recently found challenging that you kind of overcame and how you tackled that?
Well, something was performance. So I've basically learned coding kind of just self-learning, looking at articles, looking at Stack Overflow, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a lot of things that I have just never really delved into, like backend. Also, like performance was one of them because before KanbanMail, I just never really needed to worry about that stuff. But when you have like a full-on web app with like a bunch of DOM elements and all these emails and everything flying around and API requests, you kind of have to start thinking about this stuff. So I was getting like reports from users that it was very, very laggy. Like one of them sent a screen recording and it was like 1 frame every second or something.
Okay.
So like that didn't happen for me and also for a lot of other people, but obviously it happened for some people. So I kind of just spent a week or so and I was like, you know what, this week I'm just going to focus on performance. I'm going to find like every possible performance thing that could be going wrong. And it's still not perfect, but I managed to I think get the number of elements on the page from like nearly 10,000 to like 4,000 or something, and from like 1,000 event listeners to like 200 event listeners, and just kind of all these things, even like CSS optimizations, JavaScript optimizations. That was totally new for me. So I was kind of just relying on articles from all around the web, and yeah, that's one challenge I've had recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an ongoing thing, obviously. You know, optimization. I hear that.
I removed another 1,000 elements from the page actually just this afternoon. So yeah, so that's ongoing.
It's quite satisfying when you can reduce and tighten things up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really satisfying, especially because like phones, they have much worse CPUs. So before optimization, it was basically like, it was so laggy on mobile, you basically couldn't use it.
Right.
Obviously I haven't released that yet, but yeah, but now like it's still a bit laggy, but I can use it fine, and so that was really nice to see. Yeah.
Cool. So you just mentioned the mobile app. Is that a native app you said? You mean?
No.
Or just the mobile version of KanbanMail itself?
Well, I've had multiple people ask for a mobile app. Like a lot of people. That's probably my most requested thing.
Yeah.
And again, like playing to my strengths, I'm just like one person doing this on the side.
Yeah.
And like, I don't really have time to update like 3 different code bases with new features and stuff.
Yeah.
So like from like start, it was definitely going to be like something like PhoneGap, or where you use the one code base and it's kind of just a wrapper around that on mobile.
Yeah.
And one of my users who wanted it in particular, one of my paying customers, they were on Android and I was on Android. And Android has really good progressive web app support, which is where you kind of go add to home screen and it can function like an app.
Okay.
So I think what I could do is just get it, like turn it into a really nice progressive web app. And then like if the code's optimized for mobile like that, then it should be easier to kind of put wrappers around it and release it. So I guess I'm kind of just getting to the stage now where it's usable on mobile. On Android, I haven't really tested it on iOS yet. I'm going to do that later. But yeah, so that's something kind of challenging. It's been ongoing for a while. But I'm making progress. And like, I think at the moment, like the progressive web app is usable. Like I use it on a daily basis on my phone now. So yeah.
Great. Okay, so what's next for KanbanMail, would you say? So you talked about the mobile app. Is there anything in the near kind of, what you're working on right now? What's new right now? What's on the horizon?
Oh, well, something interesting I've been working on is, how everyone loved Google Inbox?
Yep. Dearly missed.
So, like one of the things that everyone was talking about is kind of just those really smart things where it would like show you if you have like a flight or a calendar event or a order or shipping or like whatever that was. And I was kind of looking into it and I found there's actually this thing called Gmail markup. So all those like flights or whatever that they fetch, that's actually JSON metadata inside the email.
Right.
So anyone can actually read that, which means I can kind of parse it and use that to display all these kind of smart features.
Yeah.
So I've kind of implemented a few of the things like calendar events, but there's a ton of different possibilities there, and I'm looking forward to implementing more of them.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think, yeah, sure. But I think, I guess with the departure of Inbox for Gmail, there's quite a few things you can capture there, right? I mean,
yeah. Here we go. So for example, here, this is an email from Meetup.
Yeah.
And they have this metadata in it, which means I can take this, and I don't know if you can see my cursor, but over here on the right, I can get the name of the event, the time, the place, all that, and I can have an add to calendar button, which basically opens Google Calendar, and yeah. So that's actually quite similar to what Gmail has. Although it's nicer because it's on the side and there's this blocking the email, and yeah, but I think there's a huge amount of potential there.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that's looking good. I think that's about does it. Again, thanks for being the first guest on this show and giving us a certain amount of insight into what's happening with KanbanMail. It's been really interesting. And where can people find you?
Okay, so I'm on Twitter, Bully Goosh.
I always wanted to know. I wanted to know how to pronounce that. I thought it was Bully Goosh or Bully Goosh. So
I don't know. I think Bully Goosh.
I'll share it in the notes anyway, where people can find you.
Okay, so I don't need to tell you how to spell it then.
I'll link that.
Also, my slightly more memorable website URL, which has links to all of that stuff, is ethan.link. So that's a fun domain. And also, yeah, if you just go to ethan.link, it has links to like my social media, also links to all the landing pages for my projects. So that's probably the best place to go. Yeah.
Excellent. So there you have it, ethan.link. Thanks, Ethan. And I'll see you around, all right?
Yeah, okay. See ya.
Bye for now. And that's it. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to see featured next. Bye for now.